Do you know that your voicemail is a bitch? Do you know that this is the second recorded message that I've recorded because she cut me off 42 seconds into the voicemail? Am I calling for any reason that's important? No. I'm calling to leave a funny voicemail, okay? I saw a bald fat man riding his Lime Razor scooter that he paid $7 to ride or something on the street in Hollywood, right underneath a freeway overpass, and he was just like, yay, yay! And then he smacked his fat little face on the pavement, and he tried to, like, laugh it off, and a bunch of Persian people were laughing at him, and he was, like, cry laughing at himself, and it was very sad. And I just thought it was kind of a metaphor for my career. Anyways, I hope you're having fun at your show.
Living glam, living rock, living with Jonathan and Katy.
Welcome to Living with Jonathan and Katy.
We have the holidays are coming, the new year. We're about to enter a new decade.
We are. Do you think like the styles from like the late 90s, early 2000s of like, you know, futuristic rap and pop videos, or
a lot of
like
silver
metallics,
clothing.
Yeah,
everything metallic.
I feel like we never reached that. We like did that because we thought that was going to be the future, and then we like went into some weird like faded bootcut jean era of the 2000s, and then we entered the 2010s, and then it became like, oh, we're bringing back the 1890s, and like it was all like mason jar stuff and like,
oh yes,
like
we've been going
steampunk
backwards
stuff, and it's like, no, can we actually like bring back what the future should have
which
been?
should be very baggy silver sweatsuits,
absolutely,
and like cool Motorola flip phones. I love how, do you remember how we know this, but like every music video in the 2000s started in space. It was like in a J-Lo in like a sexy space bedroom with like a candy colored Mac.
Yeah.
And then it was a lot of, I feel like they had just learned CGI at like Jive Records. And so then you would go to Jessica Simpson, and she was in like a futuristic rooftop.
Yes.
With like a fun little choker on. I don't know. So we miss the 2000s always. But we're going into the 2010s. Do you have any New Year's?
No, we're going into the 2020s.
Oh my God, you're
babe.
totally right.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I meant
Freudian slip.
a new 10 years.
You wish you could go back. You wish
it's always
you could redo
2010
it all.
to me.
Yeah. 2010 was honestly is a huge year. It was a huge year for me. No, I think in the new year, and especially the new decade, my resolution is to be better with money. I need to be so much better with money because I am truly awful. I also want to make money. I've said I want to be filthy rich,
yes,
morbidly obese, and have 16 adopted children, and I need money for that.
Yeah,
so.
To clean your moo-moos. Yeah, I would like to. I don't want to say, oh, you need to be better with money, but I would love to help you be better with money.
What are you gonna do?
No, I'm just saying I feel like I would like to help you if you need. I mean, not lending you more money, but like.
Girl, this is an 826 LA. I'm not your Latino gay prodigy that you get to help. Katy does volunteer her time and teaches inner city Latino kids math.
Yes.
But I ain't your inner city Latino kid.
I'm just saying, like, I like abundance mentalities. I love working through manifestation.
I'm just as bougie as you. I also like lavender.
Yeah, well, I know that's like the core of our friendship is lavender, basically. But
lavender and 18s.
Well, I'm excited to see you get filthy rich, and to I don't know, maybe we can like start a corporation.
Oh my God,
my dream is to be a corporation. Can I tell you? Really, Katy French LLC.
Just to have corporate intrigue, weird
sabotage
going on.
Corporate espionage. That's my favorite.
Ethical problems.
Yeah.
That's what you want. No, I just want to be one of those very rich gay guys with pumped lips, like J-Lo's makeup artist.
Oh, yes, Scott Barnes. Shout out to Scott Barnes.
He's fully titted. I mean, he lifts a lot, and he probably tweaks his nipples. I'll get into the tweaking of the nipples once I've titted more, once I've like muscled out and thickened.
I can help. I can teach you how to do that too.
Oh, thanks. I also maybe like I'll do the squats and I'll eat, but I'm not opposed to butt shots. You know, I'll do all that type of stuff. You know,
I just love a pumped face that is unacknowledged. You know,
right?
Like it's just that's literally. It used to be like how you knew someone was famous. You saw them in tabloids, and now, or like that they're rich, and now it's like, oh, your lips. That's like how you know if somebody's got money now.
Also. And I don't mean to make it racist, but maybe I do. sometimes people are so pumped. I legit don't know what ethnicity they are. And it's kind of like, is this the answer to racism? Everyone gets
just equally pumped.
Yeah, just they get cheek silicone injections, lip injections. And then, you know what I mean? And then you just kind of don't, fake tans.
Yeah.
So like everyone's just like some weird shade of fake
That is such actually a good idea because also all people who have excessive plastic surgery all look alike no matter their race.
Right.
The women, you have a weird like duck lip, like a weird lip.
Yes.
You have like kind of alien cheekbones.
Yes.
They really do morph into like one single race.
I know they do.
This is plastic surgery. That's our corporation. Yeah. Plastic surgery against racism.
Plastic surgery against racism. Guys, look, we're all fighting. You're that color. We don't like it. You're that color. We don't like it.
Yeah.
Okay. But let's think outside the box. What if we all keep our colors, but we
look
do
insane.
something to our face where we don't know, like, okay, is it this person, that part of that track? Like, we don't know.
Yeah. Oh, we're solving.
We are.
We're solving huge social issues here.
Yeah.
I don't personally have any New Year's resolutions. However, I did stumble across some of my archive. I was a big journaler growing up. I like to say, you know, from the ages of 10 to 13, my favorite genre of literature was self-help for middle-aged women. Mm-hmm. And that meant that I had to do a lot of journaling about my husband and children and the pressures that they were putting on me.
Yes.
I would always like steal these books from my mom and my stepmom and like just try to find out who the real Katy was, you know? And as part of that, I got very into like inspirational self-help, and I found a document which was in 1997. I decided this was my year that I was going to be very positive. This is crazy too. At the time I was 12.
Yeah.
So I decided, Katy, you got to be more positive in your life. Okay. You can't just be so negative.
Okay. That's amazing. You were having that deep thought about your positive, negative output at that age.
I was deeply depressed at age 12. But anyways, so I found this document. It was a handmade book.
Okay.
It's called 365 Uplifting Sayings of 1997 by Katy French.
You wrote it.
I wrote it. I even drew a little comic of a person in a hot air balloon, and it says, "I'm being uplifted."
Wow.
Now, could I have been the next Marianne Williamson or the Oprah? Yes, absolutely.
Oh, girlfriend.
So I decided that every year in 1997, every single day, I would write an inspirational quote to myself.
Okay.
It ended on January 10th. But we do have 10 days of straight hot inspirational ones. So today I would like to read it to you.
Well, January 12th is when volleyball started. So
right, exactly, literally.
You had to leave that journal.
I had to go back.
Yeah.
So I just want to read these. These are iconic, inspirational, uplifting. I mean, just everything. January 1st, 1997. This is the quote. "Security is there. All you have to do is search for it."
That's great.
Deep. Okay, cool. The second. "Be patient. Time is very precious." These are
true.
These are so. They're honestly. I read this one and I go, "Girl, you're so right."
Girlfriend, you are so right.
Yeah. January 3rd. "When you're in the dark, look for the light and let it guide you." It's a lot of like, look for it. It's there. Like,
right.
You know.
Also, maybe perhaps you were, I don't know, maybe in a Barnes & Noble and you stumbled upon a book of quotes and you also read these quotes.
Perhaps.
And then reinterpreted them.
And then made them my own.
Yeah.
January 4th. "Treasure the moment. It won't ever come again."
That's, what a bitch.
It was very
How do
dark.
you know it won't ever come
Yeah.
again, baby Katy?
I'm like, I'll never be as happy as I was the day I made volleyball team.
Yeah.
January 5th. "Warmth is everywhere. Feel it."
That's honestly passive aggressive.
It is.
That's like something my roommate would say to me when I tried to get them to like take out the trash or do the dishes or something.
It's a little distraction here.
Yeah.
January 6th. Boy, girl, I need this now. "Don't rush things. Don't wait till the last minute."
Wait, okay. So, don't rush things, comma or period?
Comma.
Don't rush things, comma.
Don't wait till the
Don't
last
wait
minute.
till the last minute. Now
So,
you're just playing games.
What I'm trying to say is live in the now.
Right.
You know?
You're getting cocky there.
I do feel like that was related to maybe I was late on an assignment, you know, and trying to remind myself. January 7th. "You may be sick on the outside. Don't let it ruin your spirit inside."
That is the most 12-year-old one of them.
Why? Why do you think?
Because it's like, girl, what do you mean by sick?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever been that sick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
That's just very like 12.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
January 8th. "Keep your hopes up and don't forget, good comes out of bad."
Oh, that's actually probably my favorite. Good does come out of bad.
Yeah, that's true. I was trying to remind myself.
Yes.
January 9th. Oh, and I remember why I wrote this. I wrote, kiwi cures, so does love. And I wrote that because this was made during Christmas break, I'm assuming. I was very sick, and I found a kiwi in the fridge. I had a really bad sore throat, and I liked the kiwi, and it cured me.
Oh, God.
And even though I was sick on the inside, I didn't let it show outside.
It's so weird to think back to your childhood and think like, wow, our lives were like virtually empty compared to now.
It was different. And then this is the final quote. I mean, the last one I have to leave with you guys with. Be thankful for what you have and what you get. Now, I do want to say
she's a wordsmith.
This book was written the same year I went on antidepressants. I was 12 years old. We'll talk about that in another episode. Also, I was deeply depressed and surrounded by a little bit of, familial chaos. So these were not inspiring quotes. They were desperate cries for help. But what matters most is that I wrote them on really cute stationery. I hand illustrated them. I mean, I was an artist is what I'm saying.
You could republish this, just change the title to Divorce Hurts Kids or something. And then it's just a list of these quotes from you and many other kids.
This is what I'll do. I'll go inspire young inner city Latinos and be like, be better or else this is what you could be.
Right.
Oh my God. But hey, we have a great episode coming for you.
Truly one of the best episodes we've ever recorded out of the many episodes. 1 out of 3. I mean,
30% of our greatness comes from this episode.
Yes.
We have the lovely Rachele Friedland. She's a lover. She's a queen. She's a best friend. And she has a crazy story about money. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode.
It's an epic story. Please continue listening. Her story deserves to be heard.
Send us your New Year's resolutions. Send us your deep, dark diary entries.
Yeah.
Or upliftings. Do you have an uplifting saying? Tweet it over to us.
Yeah. Tweet it at us at Living with JK. And look, we're just getting started. We don't know all the social handles yet.
The brand is in its early stages.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks. Enjoy. Bye.
Growing up, I was so excited to get boobs. Like going through puberty, I was like, man, I'm going to have such big boobs because my mom has big boobs, you know? And I was like, those are coming to me. So every day of 13, I would wake up and run to the bathroom and be like, one day, these kernels are going to pop. And my boobs will just be here. And I thought that every day until my mom sat me down and was like, Rachel, you will never have big boobs because mine are fake. Yeah. And I cried. I cried about it last night. And at the time she was like, honey, don't be upset. You know, we can always buy you some. Okay. And I thought about it and I was like, if I wait 1 more year, will I get dad's boobs instead?
Living glam, living rock, living with Jonathan and Katy. The theme of today's show is money.
Yes.
It is highly triggering. Rachel has a fascinating story about money, which is why we brought her on. So before we dive into that, we wanted to kind of just give an overview of like, when I say money, what do you think, Jonathan? What does money bring up for you?
Money brings up mistakes. It brings up so much stress. I mean, money is probably the one thing that makes me so unhappy in life. And it's basically not getting money through the thing that I want to do, which is comedy.
Right.
And how we as comedians
yes.
allow ourselves to be underpaid and mistreated constantly. Like, it's not about the amount of money. It's about... It sounds so pathetic to anyone who's listening who's not a comic, but being paid anything at all is a major problem in comedy. So money to me equals respect, and it's the lack of that in comedy that makes me so unhappy. So that's what it means to me. What about you, Rachel?
I think it's a lot of confusion, and I think that's just because of the way in which I grew up with both my parents and both of their attitudes toward money, whereas my dad was very like, we're doing it live. Let's buy whatever.
Yeah.
And my mom was very like, we're going to go shop at Marshall's. You know, so it's like two very opposite ends of the spectrum.
High-low.
Yeah. And then, and as I got older, kind of seeing both of them go through their own trials and tribulations with money.
Yeah.
to me, it just always feels very confusing.
Yeah.
But both my grandma and my mom drilled it into my head that whatever money I did make to like put some away. So I do feel very thankful that I understood what like saving something meant. Because my mom put the fear of God in me to do it.
Yeah.
For which I'm very thankful now. But otherwise very confusing.
Yeah, I agree. I had divorced parents, and I grew up in 2 households that were economically different classes, which is, I'm curious actually how often that happens to divorced people or kids of divorced parents. So I grew up half in Trump's America with a working class, like struggling, very, very borderline house, and then one that was like very solidly middle class, very responsible. Like we always had health insurance. Like my dad has never had health insurance my whole life. My mom has had like health insurance and probably dental and everything else. So I'm hyper paranoid about money. I'm very frugal. I feel like a lot of people maybe like get into credit card debt and they're like, I need to chill out, and I'm like, I actually need to like stop like putting tape on my glasses to keep them together. You know, like like when I went to therapy, actually one of her assignments for me was to go buy new like bras and underwear.
Yeah.
Katy's a millionaire. And it's not because she's ever made $1 million paycheck.
Right.
It's because
saved $1 million.
she's saved, ever.
Yeah.
That's so, I do that with gift cards.
Do you hoard them?
I hoard them. Like just yesterday, I used an Ulta gift card that I got last December. And when I went into Ulta, I was like, Rachel, it's time to spend this, bitch. Like, get something that you really want. Like, because, I'm on YouTube.com all the time looking at people doing their makeup. And I was like, just get something that you want. And then when I was in there, my brain was like, nothing feels worth it to spend this on. Even though it's like fake money. It's not my money. It was gifted to me. It's not coming out of my pocket. It's paid for.
I so relate to that, because when I was in college, I would get so stressed out about what I should. Also, because when I would have a gift card, I'd be like, what is the most I can buy for this? And like trying to maximize the thing. And it was very, very exhausting. And yeah, so money's always stressed me out. But also I'm like, because I have some parents who have money, some who don't, I'm like always preparing to like help other, like, I need money to help other people,
right.
So I feel like I'm always just like clinging to it to like, try to do that.
Yeah.
I am so bad with money. So god awful bad, and I need to be better. I really do, because I just don't. I'm just bad with it.
I mean,
in so many.
Actively, we have an active scam happening right now.
No.
We'll talk about that later.
There is no scam.
I know.
Okay. There's no scam. Okay? But no, I just am bad with money, and.
But why do you think that is?
I have no fucking idea.
Have you always been like?
I feel like because I have one friend who's really good with money, and it's because her parents like work in that industry, like within a bank. And so they have that knowledge.
Always, yeah.
And like, something like I'll hear people talk about credit card transfers. I didn't know that was a thing. Like I didn't, I never think to like act in a way which would help me get a lower interest rate. I would just be like, well, I'm saddled with this much debt and that's it.
Yeah.
Or like I'd never think to take out a loan or,
or investing in stuff.
Investing?
And yes, I listen to the Goop podcast, sue me. I listened to this interview with a really interesting woman who started this company, Elvest, and it's investing for women.
Oh, yeah.
And she was talking about like, because the gender gap in investing is like 90%. It's all male.
Right.
They know how to invest, and then women don't. And then you read articles about women that are like, I retired at 30, and then it's like, how? And she's like, I went to Harvard Law, and like, I was CEO of Bank of America. You're like, bitch, I don't know. Yeah. So her whole thing is like, it's so.
I don't know about that.
But so I was like, oh, I want to start like investing on this app, but like literally not even you can start with $50. Like you have the Goop promo is go on and she gives you $50 to start investing with. And literally to me, I'm like, could I turn this 50 into a 75?
Yeah.
If that was the case, I would be like, honey, I won the system.
Yeah, you take it out immediately.
I'm not a like thousands of dollars person.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm that person. If I go gamble and I get up any sort of dollar amount, I'm like, cash me out. Like that's $5 more than I came here with. I'm good to go. Yeah,
I never gamble. It terrifies me.
It's so interesting because I feel like I used to be like you guys when I was younger, because I grew up middle class too, but both my parents are like very, very, very poor backgrounds. Like my mom was born in like a dirt floor in Mexico. My dad's born in the projects. But they always were kind of the same way, instilling me to save, and we were always very frugal about things. But I think something shifted, I think, around adolescence where I have this thing when I have money where I'm like, you literally could die in an hour.
Sure.
Get what you want.
Which is such a YOLO mentality that people,
But I do think, and not to bring it back to this, and it's like totally something else that this episode's not about, but I do think after my nephew passed when he was 13
and
of cancer.
and you were like the same age as
I was 14.
Yeah.
So, and we were like brothers because we like grew up together. And
right.
stuff. So I don't know, something about my entire physiology and like my mind changed.
Yeah.
So like I didn't like doing the same things anymore, like not even talking about money. And I think it was after that, like definitely my adolescence, where I was like, oh, if you want to like blow your like summer job money on this like one computer that in which you will have no money for the fall or anything, you know, like because I used to like gotta get a job at like a yogurt shop like during the school break or whatever. It'd be like, yeah, we're gonna do that.
That's really interesting.
But it's good and bad because it's partly, it's like, yes, use money to have these experiences because you can die.
Right.
You can hoard and have 16,000 in your savings, and then what if you never touched it and you just die?
Right.
You know. But then to waste it all is like, but then the life that you do have ahead of you, you're making harder.
Yeah,
for
they always joke like you could die tomorrow, but hopefully you don't wake up. Because then it's like, you know, there's the whole thing of Pirates Code. Are you familiar with that philosophy?
No.
That
I feel like, of course, Katy, you would know about
Pirates Code. Pirates Code. No, it's the philosophy that like during the trade route time, that obviously they were trading rum and stuff, and that basically they were like the captain always would drink the finest bottle of rum on the ship because the ship could always go down.
Oh, wow.
So it's basically the idea of that is like people who are like, I'm saving that bottle of wine or I'm
say
saving
it.
that china for like this. It's like you're saving it for a life that'll never happen. So like do it now, use those things now, which is now why actually gift cards. I used to get so paranoid or paralyzed by like, what do I do? How do I maximize it? And now I'm like, I would wait too long and then they would either expire or you'd lose them.
Yeah.
And now I actually use them as quickly as possible because I'm like, I don't want anybody fucking doing that. Or I feel the same way about like like credit card points or little things like that. Like I used to like save and be like someday for my children, you know. And now I'm like actually I'd be more mad if I died and I had $23 in points that I didn't use.
Or that you didn't assign to me.
Also, historically, the stereotype of Swedish people is the thrifty Swede, and that was like
I did not know that.
That was our like slur. We were known for being.
That's your little boutique that you open up when
thrifty Swede.
When we give up and we move to the desert,
and when I invest and then I triple it. In my American Studies class, they were showing like ethnic stereotypes and like the rude cartoonish things, and then the Swedish one was like the thrifty Swede.
Don't call me thrifty. That's a slur.
How dare you? It's not my fault I'm rich. Just kidding. Oh man. So speaking of, Rach, we have you on because you went through the crazy experience of your family lost a fortune. Maybe not a full fortune, but you lost your money in a Ponzi scheme.
It's just about a full fortune.
Yeah. And you kind of talked about it, but can we talk about like what you said about growing up younger, like when your dad had a Ferrari when you were younger?
Literally the story of, so my parents, when they were together, this is wife number 2 for my dad, for anyone listening. By the way. 2 out of 4.
But what number earring is it?
Earring number 1.
Watch Rachel's stand up for more on her dad's
earrings.
It's a wonderful bit. Yeah.
Earring 1, aka the good old days. My parents did really well for themselves. And they were not people who came from, like, they were both middle class and they kind of like worked together to kind of build they were working as executive producers. And yeah, they did quite well for themselves. So at one point life was like, I was like, Dad, this red Ferrari is really nice. And he was like, it really is, isn't it? And the next day, swear to God, it was like outside.
Really?
Like, yeah. And I mean, I don't know that means that he actually had the money for it or that he had the credit limit for it, but like either way it was there.
Yeah.
Which still, like, that's just my dad's mentality is like, if you want it, let's get it and we'll figure out the rest later. Whereas my mom has always been a little bit more frugal, thanks to my grandma. Like I said. So yeah, so that was kind of like, childhood was very much like, if I wanted something, there was no question of like, well, you know, can we afford it? It was like, okay, well, how are your grades? You know, it was more like qualifications around.
And you had a horse or...
Yeah, I did.
My 2 favorite things about Rach, she had a horse.
I did have a horse. I was horseback riding, and my dad stupidly, I'll say, got me a horse. Because what little girl isn't going to be like, I would like a horse?
Yeah, no, it's going to be like, Dad, I don't think that's a wise
Yeah.
idea. You're like, make it a pony. And
Yeah,
squirrels.
yeah. I mean,
What was your horse's name?
Spot.
Okay. Cute.
His show name was In the Spotlight. I was really proud of it. Yeah.
Spotlight.
Yeah.
Show name.
Really proud.
Oh, we need show names. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, which like it is really fun. It does get really dark once they get divorced because I think, once my parents got divorced,
The
it's
horse
like,
takes it hard.
yeah, really hard. Well, this is a brief sad story, but my dad stopped paying rent on like the
Stable.
And so a woman put a lock on his stall and I like couldn't take him out.
So you get
For
to
a
say
couple
goodbye?
weeks. No, I mean, I got to say goodbye, but it was like I couldn't take him out for a walk. Like he would just get fed and they would clean his stall, but it was like I got put in the middle of the woman who owned the stable and my dad who wasn't paying. And it's like, what am I supposed
You're
to
just
do?
a young
I'm
girl.
13, you know, like
a sweet flower.
yeah, I'm not making that kind of money, it turns out. Like, you know, so
The mitzvah wasn't that strong.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's when things got really confusing once my parents got divorced and I would ask for something like for school or if I wanted to go like to a concert or, you know, just something, or if I needed money for uniform or whatever, each one of them would say, well, I don't have money for that. Go ask the other parent. So then I got put in between the two of them having to ask for things that involved money, and that became really very difficult, and it made me and my sister become very insular of like, don't ask for anything because it just brings a lot of pain.
Yeah.
So it just got very like, okay, we're just not gonna you know, like I don't know,
It's just not there anymore. So
yeah. And then it got very confusing because whereas when my parents were together and it was like we can't afford things, once they were divorced it was like, well, we can't afford that, or like that's just not happening, or ask your dad or ask your mom. And so yeah, it was just different, I guess. And that's when I was like 13 to 16 is when all of that happened. Yeah, beyond that.
So then.
Yeah. So like how much do we want to fast forward, I guess?
So just to give some context, like how, you know, you're growing up and stuff. So then your parents get divorced, things are a little bit rough. Now you're very close to your grandmother.
Yeah,
your
super
Bubby,
close to Bubby, yeah.
who is how old?
She's 99. She'll be 100 on December 22nd.
She's kicking. We had a pool party at Bubby's house this summer.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, we loved it. She wheeled out. She watched us.
She did. It was really great. Yeah. My grandma grew up during the Depression. Like, she grew up in Boston during the Depression.
Oh God, that is depressing.
It's very in a tenement. Like, she did the whole 9 yards.
She was an American Girl doll.
Actually. Yeah. The Jewish American Girl doll.
Bubby Friedland.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really crazy talking to her. This is my mom's mom, Zane. And Zane, if anyone wants to give her a quick Google. Yeah, she remembers being alive before there was a refrigerator in her apartment. Like, that's how old she is.
Yeah.
And she'll always tell me stories of how when the kids wanted to have a party, they would put out a bowl of raisins and nuts because that's what they could afford. You know, it's that was a snack for the time, and they'd play records. And yeah, like that's how she grew up. She has, I think, a pretty wild story because her first husband left her with a kid in a house, like, and she wasn't really working because women weren't really
very
working. Yeah. She was lucky to have a high school diploma, and she read a lot on her own volition, so she was able to read. I just found out that one of her friends never learned how to read until she was 70 years old. Wow. Yeah.
But it's literally the era.
Yeah.
I mean, women, and if you're poor and you don't go to school, like,
right.
Especially if you're, especially women.
Exactly.
They'll
Yeah.
take you out to, like, you know, raise the siblings or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Bubby used to cut hair. That was her trade. That's what she did for a long time. Yeah. She was a stylist. Yeah. And then, she met my grandpa, who like I grew up with, and they moved out here to beautiful Orange County.
And what did they do? What did he do?
He ran a hardware store, and she helped with inventory for them.
And she did hair for the men that came in. No.
She was like, come to the back, have a seat. Yeah.
Garden shears.
Yeah. Yeah. So like Bubby established her life in Southern California.
And they bought a home. They
bought a home.
Kids.
Yeah. Yeah. With my mom. My mom was born in Boston, but then like did most of her growing up out here. Yeah. And Bubby's always lived, I mean, because of the time that she grew up, she's always lived quite frugally.
Yeah. And maybe this is a projection, but I also assume growing up Jewish and like her growing up through the World War II thing, like I just feel like there's a fear of things that can happen to you.
Oh,
and
totally.
It makes you very
so the
clingy or hoarding tendencies a little bit. You know
I think what's scary too is that like not only growing up during the Depression, but this isn't the first kind of like money scandal that my grandma's been involved in. I guess she was banking back in the 70s with another bank that wasn't insured by the state, and they lost all their money.
Oh, in the 70s, probably there was a big economic crash. I believe that was probably why.
Sure.
Oh, wow.
So it's like this isn't the first time it's happened to her.
Oh, okay.
And I think what's hard is that, you know, each time you run into a crisis like this, you're like, well, what steps do I need to take now so that this doesn't happen next time?
Okay.
Yeah. And so what was hard about this Ponzi scheme is that it started with her CPA, who was a family friend. My mom knew this woman, Carol Peterson, from high school.
They went to high school.
They went to high school together. Yeah.
That's how they met.
Yeah.
Okay. True betrayal.
Yeah.
True
Yeah.
betrayal.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my mom and my grandma have known her for 30 years. Oh, and I'm 30 years old. Yeah.
wow.
So yeah, she's like, you know, she was someone who was around on major holidays, would come to Bubby's birthdays. Like,
So she was this woman was your CPA. She was a family friend.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's never someone that I have some of my mom's friends I have personal relationships with. She was not someone that I had a personal relationship with, but I would know that she would be at certain holidays or at Bubby's birthday.
Sure,
and
she's
like,
around.
yeah, very friendly and
Family friend.
friend. Yeah.
So she had been, do you know around what time, 30 years ago, she became your grandma's CPA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd have to assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And was Bubby like retired at the time or?
yeah. Yeah.
Now at that time, your Bubby had acquired a fortune, or was it just building?
No, it was just building. So
Just building, okay.
anything that Bubby had, she worked for,
it.
and my grandpa worked for.
So house savings, probably your retirement stuff,
Yeah.
all that stuff. And she was investing with.
So they had
Right.
developed a nut that they wanted to grow.
Yeah,
Got it,
totally.
got it.
Right,
Okay.
right. So from what I've gathered, because I never asked questions about Carol and like the investing, I just knew that was something that my mom was doing.
Why would you know? Yeah.
Well, yeah, and why would I ask?
Yeah.
You know,
Who
growing
cares?
up, it's like I'm 18. I'm not concerned about what my mom is doing with her money.
Right.
Like that
Right.
is a mom thing to do.
Right.
So I'm not sure. I guess 10 years into their friendship, after being a CPA to both my grandma and my mom, Carol comes to them with this opportunity of returns on investments. You know, it's like,
This is 20 years ago at this point?
yeah,
Okay.
it must be.
Okay.
Must have been.
Okay.
Somewhere between like 15 to 20 years, I'd say. And I mean, I think, you know, at that point, like you've known this person for 10 years. They've been in your life in this way. Like, I think my grandma was at Carol's first wedding or like involved with Carol's first husband's family. You know, like my grandma knows how to plant herself in other people's lives in a way that's
As a good Bubby does.
As a good Bubby does. Yeah. So yeah, she was quite involved. And so I think by that point, when you're 10 years into a friendship that's like that intimate, it's like, yeah, why
trust
wouldn't
them.
I
Of
want
course.
to? And
Right.
so at that point, I'm just born. And not to toot my own horn, but I'm like the most important thing to my grandma. So I think
family jewel.
Exactly. I think too that like I'm born and my grandma's like, of course I want to invest in their future. And, you know, my grandpa felt the same way. And they just thought ahead. Like they thought ahead to put aside money to help me and my sister.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
You know, as we got to different stages in our lives. So yeah, so I guess for at least 15 years, my mom and Bubby were investing, quote unquote, with Carol.
Okay. So she comes to your mom. She says, I have an opportunity.
Yeah.
You should invest in.
Right.
Which was probably some stock. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like stocks.
Investment, actually.
Yeah, it was something like low risk stocks.
Sure.
Right. So it sounds fine. And that just happens. Like my mom put a lot of the money that she had made from working when she and my dad were together in with Carol, you know, and it's like, of course, if you're seeing on paper how much money Carol's telling you that you're making,
Right.
you're like, great, take more.
Sure, let's
take
double
more
down.
of my money.
Yeah.
because I want my kids to have a certain future.
Yeah.
And it's paying off. It's working. What
Yeah,
you
right.
said is true, Carol. It is
Yeah.
we're making more money with our
Exactly.
money. Right,
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So, and like, I never hear anything about it really until 2 years ago. Like there hadn't been any major problems that I had heard of until 2 years ago. And that's kind of when the Ponzi scheme started to unravel.
Okay. So what was the first symptom or what was happening?
Sure. So the first time that I was aware that anything was going on was 2 years ago when Bubby said, I haven't gotten my money from Carol. And so what that means is that Carol would deposit like a lump sum into my grandma's account so that she could help pay for like bills.
And she's a caretaker. Again, she's 99.
Yeah.
She's
She has around the clock care. She goes to the doctors when she needs it, but also just to go gossip.
Yeah.
So it's like,
She loves
it all adds up.
She loves a friend.
Yeah, exactly. Her house is like from the 60s, so it's constantly needing repairs, just like
Grandma stuff.
Yeah. So I think a month goes by where she's like, I haven't gotten this money. Like, I'm okay. Luckily she has her own savings that she can touch. That's not like, she's not waiting on Carol. So that happens for 1 month and we're like, okay, well, hopefully Carol will figure it out in the next
weird
month.
Glitch or something. Yeah.
It'll be there. Because I guess as Bubby's telling me this, she says, well, it happened another time, but Carol figured it out.
Okay.
So we're like, okay.
So your faith is still in Carol. Like,
Yes.
oh, okay, but it was fine. So
Yeah.
cool.
Right.
Some glitch. Yeah.
So we're like, great, it'll be there next month. The next month comes around, there's no money. And not only that, but my grandma cannot get a hold of Carol anymore. So it's like at first Bubby's calling Carol going, hey, my money's not there. Is everything okay? I just want to make sure. And Carol's going, yes, don't worry. It'll be there next month. And then Carol goes off the map, like cannot get a hold of her. Bubby's trying to call her. My mom's trying to call her. Bubby calls Carol's mother because it's like at this point, Bubby's like,
I will
is
call your
something
mother.
wrong? Yeah.
But also, it's like, is
wow.
she dead?
Yes,
like,
that's
we've
right.
never had this
Yeah.
happen before.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, Bubby's first instinct is like, Carol's sick or something's really wrong or, I don't know what's going on. So Carol falls off the map for a while and Bubby's still like, there's no money here. So she's starting to dip into her, whatever savings that she has, which again, I don't know what my grandma's or my mom's like savings looked like. I just know that they had money with Carol that was supposedly several accounts that were like inheritance,
Right.
personal
House.
savings.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then at some point,
And
there's
at
like,
this point, were you suspicious at all? Or were you just kind of like, oh, that's weird. That's happening in the background. Like, what's up with that?
it was weird.
Yeah.
It was definitely weird, but I don't think it was until like the whisperings of Carol's being sued because she's running a Ponzi scheme or because some people wanted their money back from her and she could not give it to them. That's kind of when things kicked in of like, oh, fuck.
Oh.
What's going on?
Yeah. So where did those words, like, what was the first word on that might be? So she calls her mom and her mom doesn't know what's happening?
Yeah,
what does her mom say?
I mean, her mom is like, I don't even remember what her mom says. I don't know that her mom covers for her, but I think she's just like, no, Carol's fine. She just needs time. She'll get back to you soon.
Going through something or whatever.
Yeah. And Carol's husband, boyfriend, I don't know what he is to her, but is saying the same. Like, Carol's fine, but she just needs some time and she'll get back to you. So everyone's
she
kind of
does
covering for
have
her.
people covering for
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
That's shady as fuck.
Yeah. So what we hear is that, let me double back because I feel like this is getting confusing. So what Carol did is she has this pool of money that she is quote unquote investing. And I asked my mom about this once when I was like 22 because I just didn't get it. I've, again,
You're like, how can that be possible?
yeah, like what is investing? I don't know how it works. And I remember asking my mom and my mom kind of explained it, but also didn't understand it. So what was going on is that Carol was taking people's money, investments that they thought they were like, great, I'm going to give these to Carol. She's going to go invest in, low risk bonds. And then I'm going to make money off those. So what had happened was different people who were part of this like quote unquote client pool said, okay, I'm ready to withdraw my funds.
And they weren't there.
And they weren't there. And then they sued her.
Because in a Ponzi scheme, new people's money was paying old people's
Right.
funds.
Right.
Yeah.
So at that point,
But at a certain point, it all catches up, and then there are people who are left holding nothing.
Yeah, because
Exactly.
when one person wants to take it out, now the whole domino falls.
Right.
Or starts.
right. Yeah, sorry if I should have explained a Ponzi
No, it's
scheme.
okay.
No,
People
no,
we
no.
assume, but yeah.
Yeah.
Good. So that's what she had been doing.
Right, right. So, but then when we hear that, we're like, oh, these people, they own 2 McDonald's franchises. Like, they're just wealthy and they're mad and
They're just being petty.
they're just being petty.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you want to think, because when you lay it all out, it's like, here's a person who we've known for 30 years, who has been delivering on, you know, these financial needs that we have, that my grandma has, that my mom has. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's some major problem with these people who all we know about them is that they own franchises.
Yeah. And there's been no symptoms up to this point. So you're like, why would I?
Right.
Right.
You're just like, okay, yeah.
Right. So at that point, Carol goes, I can't get you any more money right now, but you will be okay.
What does
Okay.
that
That's
mean?
just straight up what she tells them.
Yeah. To Bubby and my mom.
She tells them.
On
Okay.
the phone or in person? Do you know?
Ooh, I don't remember.
Yeah, probably on the phone, but
Yeah.
is like, hey, okay.
But I mean, in the meantime, Bubby's calling Carol at least once a week, if not daily.
Yeah.
My mom's emailing her like, what's going on? Yeah. What do I need to do?
And how many months in is this of like no money?
Probably like 6 to 8 months.
Okay, so that's a
Do you know
Yeah.
how long it was that Carol was off the map and dodging their calls and emails?
2 to 3 months.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that's why it felt, when someone like that drops off the map, you're like, okay, this is serious.
Right.
But then for
Yes.
her to come back and go, you'll be okay, because you want to believe,
Of course.
I'll be okay.
Yeah.
You listen to it.
Yeah.
But also, it's like, how could we believe you? You just ignored us for 3 months.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's like, seems like something's weird because
Yeah.
she's never done this before. So you're
Right.
like, maybe something's happened. Like, you know,
Right.
just the plot, like, of where your mind
Or
is at
she
the
has
time.
done this before. You're just discovering this, and this is
Sure.
who she is.
Right,
Sure.
right. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
All
to
of it.
you specifically. Yeah.
To
Yeah.
you, yeah.
I think at some point, I don't know where this is in the timeline, but at some point my mom drove past our house and said that the windows were like cardboarded up and the doorbell was like kicked off or something.
Oh.
So I think somebody else got mad enough that they went and tried to confront her.
I'm sure multiple people went.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh yeah, I need to do something."
Just dodge. Yeah. So she's like, you guys are going to be okay. And they're like, what the fuck? Okay.
Well, yeah, at that point you're just like, all right, my grandma has like, I think she has a hold of like my and my sister's and my mom's inheritance that she like set aside that's not with Carol, thank God. And that's just what she's been living off
So
of.
she was like, okay. Yeah.
And then around that time where Carol's like, you'll be okay, my grandma falls and breaks her hip. And that was like, okay, very
Carol's
stressful.
curse.
Yeah, exactly. Really stressful. It was like, A, are you going to die? Because at this point, she's 98 years old getting a hip replacement. You know, it's like, that shouldn't happen.
Right.
Living shouldn't happen. But she does.
Yeah.
And Carol comes to the hospital to see her. Yeah. And we're standing in the room with Carol. And she's sitting there with Bubby going, you'll be okay. You know, I'm so glad that you're out of surgery. I'm so glad you're okay. You'll be home soon enough. Oh my God. Yeah. And it was just so weird because it's like, okay, here's this person who my grandma and my mom have trusted with their lives, their livelihood, who fell off the map for a couple months, who we don't really know what's going on, who cannot talk to my mom or my grandma about when they will start receiving you know, money to like pay their rent, pay their bills again. Just sitting, you know, bedside with my grandma. Oh my God. Yeah.
And did not address it to Bubby or you or your mother?
Was
No,
probably
not
like,
in the room.
This is about Bubby right
Yeah,
now. Because
exactly.
We're just happy she's alive.
Yeah, exactly.
Like making it all about, and Bubby's like, "Where's my money?" Legit.
If only I don't.
You see this hip? It costs money.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, so what was mostly stressful about Bubby breaking her hip is that it was then like, okay, well now we need to get you home and we need to have professional care come in because it can't just be her like her caretakers who are like, I'm here to make you breakfast and help you get dressed. You know, it's like we need to get you on a rotation of pain management pills, physical therapy, like, you know, so it just was this really hefty finance that was about to be incurred that just everything looked like a mountain. And it, you know, Bubby has that mentality of like, let me put tape on my glasses before I get new ones. So it felt really hard to be like, okay, we're going to get people to come in, you know, hourly who can stay with you 24 hours a day, but that costs $26 an hour.
Yeah.
And there is no, you know, like insurance doesn't cover that.
Sure.
Or if they did, you'd have to prove that you had a certain level of income, which we don't know what Bubby's level of income is right now. So yeah, that was really stressful, but I'm very thankful that my mom just said, we're just going to put it on a credit card and we'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
Like, we just need to help, you know, get her stable again. So
Carol's there.
Yeah.
Are you glaring mad dog at Carol, or can you not even look at her?
I'm more mad dogging her,
Yeah.
but I'm also confused.
Because you're like what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, I think really what it's confusing because who do you believe? Right? Like this person who I've heard whispers about, who is part of a client pool. Like my mom doesn't know anyone else who's in this client pool of hers. We don't know other people, so we can't be like, hey, what have you heard?
Yeah.
It's just my mom and my grandma going back and forth to each other of, do you think she would do this to us? Do you think she would do this to us? No, she wouldn't. And when something like that that's so unbelievable happens, you go into denial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same with like literally anything in your life where you're like, I can't believe this is happening. You're just like, well, then I won't believe it's happening.
Yeah. They've known her for 30 plus years. And so it's like trying to accept something that your sister or your daughter did something this awful to you. And you're like, no, that can't be.
Yeah.
I'm going to rule out every other possible thing and exhaust that first before I admit, oh, they did do it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So from there,
yeah,
she's in the room with Bubby, and then what's the next?
The next is like, we don't really hear from her. The next is like, there is a lawsuit being filed against Carol. And
is it a class action or directly from your family?
Class action.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at this time, is the FBI involved?
Yes.
So then you hear.
So then we hear like, okay, the FBI is getting involved. This is real.
Yeah.
But and yet still in so much denial because like for me, again, I don't know the numbers, right? Like my mom would always say something like, you'll be okay. Like once I pass, you'll be fine. You know, like don't worry about it. But I think now at this point, it's like, it's just totally different. So I can't imagine being at my mom's age, having worked as hard as I worked, at Bubby's age, worked as hard as she worked with my grandpa, who like, you know, like Holocaust survivor, came to America, like did, you know, the rags to middle class journey, to have it all taken from you and to be, you know, it's like my mom especially, she's like, I can't start over, you know, and she doesn't, you know, she has a profession. It's the entertainment industry, which is so unstable. You know, it's like she's a freelancer. Yeah. So imagine starting over at her age being a freelancer. It just is impossible.
Right.
And it makes me feel awful. And I think that me, luckily, I'm young. You know, I have my own chance to make my own money, which I always have. You know, there was never part of me that was like, well, I'm just going to fuck off and
trust fund kid. Yeah.
Trust fund kid. Yeah. Because A, I didn't have access to it, the money. B, never knew how much it was and was like not, you know, I'm not here to like rely on that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. And that's the way to probably do it for most trust fund kids is like, you don't give them access to all that money until like a certain point.
Yeah.
Right.
And it really,
you know,
it's just common people's inheritance. That's just how it works.
Right.
For sure.
So I think that's really, I didn't want it to be real for my mom because I could sense the fear. I mean, it really, really has destroyed her in this way that like I can't imagine.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, she's going through a level of betrayal that's like, I don't know if I would almost say this is actually worse than getting like, I don't know, like you're, I don't know.
It's awful. It's awful. It's your friend of 30 years, literally stealing all of your money, all of your mother's money.
Emotional and financial devastation.
I was trying to search for a word more than betrayal, but like
devastation.
That's,
yeah,
I just couldn't find one. But yeah.
So it's so right. Anyway, getting back to the timeline of it all is we hear that the FBI is involved. So at this point, my mom is still trying to talk to Carol to be like, what's going to happen? Like, what do I need to do? What's happening? Can you tell me what's going on? I'm freaked out. And is still trying to be like, are we team Carol? Do we believe
Right.
that these people are just being greedy? Are they crazy? Are they vindictive? Or did Carol fuck up?
Yeah.
And I think my mom just gets so frustrated because she's not like getting an answer. She doesn't feel better because this lawsuit, as it's under investigation, I think my mom can see the timeline.